ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. ثم أما بعد، عن حذيفة رضي الله عنه قال: كنا إذا حضرنا مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم طعاما لا يضع أحدنا يده في الطعام حتى يضع يده صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإنا قد حضرنا طعاما مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فجاءت جارية فذهبت لتضع يدها فأخذ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بيدها. جاءت جارية كأنها تدفع، يعني كأنه إنسان مجبرها أو ماخذها بعجله. فجاء أعرابي كأنه يدفع فأخذ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بيده، ثم قال: إن الشيطان ليستحل الطعام أن لا يذكر اسم الله عليه، وإنه قد أتى بهذه الجارية ليستحل بها الطعام، ثم أتى بهذا الأعرابي ليستحل به الطعام، والذي نفسي بيده إن يده في يدي مع يدها. This hadith is referring to food and the etiquettes when you start the food is to say Bismillah, and this is in reference to that, the benefit of that, and how the story happened when the companions, Hudhayfa reported that when we are with the Prophet ﷺ, we used to be with him, and then food comes, we used to not start unless the Prophet ﷺ starts, blessing and respect and love and all of that. And one time we were with the Prophet ﷺ and food was there, so the Prophet ﷺ were waiting for him to put his hand, and while we were doing that, a jariyah, young girl, came as if somebody is pushing her to start. She came like rushing, and she just wanted to start eating. So the Prophet ﷺ took her hand. Grab her hand means he prevented her from eating. Then all of a sudden they see an Arabi, a Bedouin, coming the same way as if someone is pushing him. He's in a hurry to start, and he just put his hand, and the Prophet ﷺ grabbed his hand too, prevented him from eating. Then he added ﷺ to the companion. This is in the presence of the companion. They can see that, and he spoke while he was doing that. And meaning he was holding the hand of the little girl and he was talking to the companion. He said, Shaitan yastahillu ta'am. Shaitan cannot eat unless someone eats without saying Bismillah. He's not able to eat, for however Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does it. If the person says Bismillah, rahat alayhi shaitan, majid. So the shaitan wants to eat and knows the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he starts, he's going to say Bismillah. He is the one to start first. So he came with a little girl and was the shaitan, inciting her to start. So the girl was wanting to start, and then the Prophet ﷺ grabbed her hand. Then he came with a Bedouin, did the same thing. He prevented both of them. Now the question is, what's a relationship between a little girl and a Bedouin? Anyone? Both of them, number one, ignorant. The little girl doesn't know much, and the Bedouin doesn't know much either. Bedouin lived far away from civilization, from knowledge, from everything. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to feel so good when a Bedouin comes. Why? Because he's going to be asking the Prophet ﷺ, bombarding him with questions. They don't have the respect that the Sahaba have. They don't care if you're tired or not tired. The way they address is different. Just like some of the companions came and they start yelling, Ya Muhammad, and you know their voice. They don't need microphones or any of that to make it hear. It makes you wonder sometimes how the Sahaba, how the Prophet ﷺ in Hajjat al-Wada', in the farewell pilgrimage, how he addressed 124,000 or 120,000 or so companions without a mic, and everyone was hearing him well. It tells you, subhanallah, the ability and the strength they have before. It's no comparison to us. So anyway, the Bedouin doesn't have the knowledge, and he is forgiven ignorance because he's far away. And the little girl is also forgiven because she is not accounted. You're accounted when you reach the puberty. So even though both of them are not accounted, the Prophet ﷺ did not let them start. This is when you educate and when you teach and when you raise your children or show people the right way, it's not time to have emotions and, oh, he's a little boy, this is a little girl, and he does know and he doesn't know. You fulfill the command in a proper way. The problem with us is we don't have the proper way. You can hold the little girl's hand and you can add some word, حبيبتي لا شوي استنى شوي كذا. You can say things to do that. But the point that we're making here, we try to give excuses to people to break the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have an excuse, and we have no plans. That's the problem. It's not like I'm going to let the person do it now, but after they finish, I'm going to take him aside and tell him what you did is wrong and don't do it next time and stuff like that. No, you have no plans, and at the same time, you don't want to fulfill the rules. It's like someone will tell you, oh, this is not time for this. And he continues on this until he dies. It's not time for this. Well, when is it the time for it? What's your plan? When are you going to do it? When are you going to start it? So the Prophet ﷺ, just like I mentioned before, one time when Al-Hasan or Al-Hussein ate a date, and this is from the sadaqah, which is the zakah, and it is prohibited for the family of the Prophet ﷺ. He took it out of his mouth. Just reflect on that. If we do it and someone sees you, I'm not going to say the non-Muslims. The Muslims, you will have more problems with them than the others. He doesn't, هذا تشدد وهذا يا شيخ little boy, little girl, let him do it, tell him after. All the love and the emotions and everything plays in there as if you know nothing, and they are the number one da'iyah. And you could be in da'wah for years and years, and then someone comes out of nowhere, doesn't know how to read Al-Fatiha, then he starts telling you the proper way of making da'wah. It's unfortunate. It's so sad and it's so real. The Prophet ﷺ took that and he told him haram. This incident by itself one time taught Al-Hasan to not touch that and to not eat that. But when you start tapping on the shoulders of the person and delaying and postponing and doing this, it's not even taken seriously. So the Prophet ﷺ took the hand of the little girl and the hand of the Bedouin, and both of them not accounted. Focus on that. Focus on they're not accounted, meaning if they ate without saying Bismillah, there is no accountability on them. Okay. Yet the Prophet ﷺ is teaching the one who's doing it and teaching the one who's watching it. And then he added, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, an extra thing to tell you it's not just a saying that the shaitan is there and the shaitan is pushing them. After he explained, he said, shaitan cannot eat unless someone says Bismillah. And trust me, if you are in a war with someone, I don't think you can order pizza for him and start sending food for him and taking care of him and feeding him and all of that so he can wipe you out. The worst thing that you can do is definitely you don't want to give him an opportunity to enjoy himself. That's why, Sheikh Isa, your shaitan has to be so scrawny and so ugly and so thin and so weak. Why? Because you say Bismillah every time you eat and every time you drink. And when you go to the house and you do that, so he is not sleeping and he is not eating and he is not drinking. What kind of a shaitan you would have? Everybody has one. So make sure your shaitan is really weak by all the time mentioning the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as needed. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam added to, after the explanation, the shaitan preparing himself for the food, and he's utilizing the one through which that you can eat. This is like you want to go inside a house, you cannot go inside the house, but you know someone who has a key, and ignorant, he's not going to ask you who you are or why you want to go and everything. Habibi, can you open the door for me? Yalla, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Okay, you have the key. Boom, open the door, you got in the house, you robbed it. That's exactly what the shaitan was doing. Then he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that his hand, the shaitan, in my hand with the hand of the girl. So it's a reality. It's not just shaitan, it's a real shaitan that he is holding his hand. Just like when the shaitan came on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they saw him when he was praying. Shaitan came to mess up his focus, and he was like waving fire in front of him. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam grabbed him from his neck and he choked him until his saliva leaked on his hand. So these are not just sayings, it's a real thing. Then the Prophet ﷺ, and look at the importance of Bismillah. The shaitan will not eat. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want the shaitan. يعني إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا. You don't take care of your enemy. You want to deal with him as an enemy. He is there to put you in hell. Definitely, you're not going to allow him doing that. So that's number one. Then the Prophet ﷺ told the companions in a different hadith, he said, لا تفتح الفرس والروم ويكثر الطعام حتى لا يذكر اسم الله عليه. The Persian and the Romans are going to be conquered. Of course, this is at a time when they have nothing. And guess what? This is the proof of the prophecy of the Prophet ﷺ. It did happen. So when this happened, what would happen? He said, ﷺ, he said, then food will be a lot. And let's take our life, the elders amongst us, what we used to eat. I mentioned that before. Even when I talk about it in the sense like we don't have it, it really makes me hungry because it was something I'm missing. So you have little food. You could have just oil and some za'atar or some salt and pepper. Wallahi. Zayt, olive oil, salt and pepper, and some vegetables here and there, and then you dip here and you touch here and you eat and you drink some tea and you have the best breakfast ever. Here now, when you guys do breakfast, what do? Get in the eggs and the hummus and the food and the falafel and the cheese and everybody's going, what do we have for today? What do you have for today? You have the whole world for today. So when things are too much, people are not focused on the religion, they're focused on the food. I want this, I want that. You take a little bit here, fill your plate with this, so you're not eating together. There's no blessing in the food. There is no remembrance. The food is so much, there's no remembrance to even say Bismillah, because all of your mind is, I want from this and I want from that, and you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anytime you have too much goodness or too much suffering or bad, you tend to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he said, كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى. Insan exceeds limits when? When he has too much money. And رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. So the same thing with the food. So the prophecy of the Prophet ﷺ is about the Romans and the Persians, and at the same time about food that people don't say Bismillah. And check it out. Look at around you and see how many people say Bismillah when they eat. I guarantee you, even the righteous ones don't even remember that. They'll be just talking to each other and, oh, did you get this? Where did you get that from? Oh, I don't. And you dipped and you started and you ate and without even thinking. So inshallah, keep in your mind that the benefit we learn inshallah today is to always mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you don't want the shaitan to eat, and because you want the blessing of the food. When you say the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a blessing for the food. That's number one. If you have little brothers, little sisters, children, make sure you educate them that and teach them that. And actually, this is powerful. When you see someone going for the food and you grab his hand and he said, did you say Bismillah? You see? It's not like you hold his hand until he is screaming and yelling. No, okay, now you teach it. If you do it one more time, why do you think people eating with their left hand? Because their parents never really cared for them when they are young. Oh, they're young, let them eat with that. It's not time right now to tell them right and left. Let them have fun. Why do you always have to do something? That's what moms do, and that's what brothers, and that's what children tell that. They don't give you the opportunity to teach. But imagine when they come to eat and you grab the hand and you say Bismillah, eat from it. All it takes is maybe once or twice, right and left. Wallahi, I remember one of my children probably went many years, missed days, years. He's, subhanAllah, it's like he's created left-handed. Always. Right hand. Oh, okay. Right hand. Right. I was saying right hand. Right. I go to sleep while I'm asleep. So right hand. Because he just so many times until he did it, and that's why you find people not following the sunnah simply because the parents either they're acting like they're so compassionate with the people, just like you don't wake up your children for salah, for fajr, because they need to sleep. Or you let them sleep without Isha because, oh, it's too late. And you start counting and calculating 8 hours. If you don't sleep 8 hours, you'll be retarded. And they fail in this school and they will not succeed in this and in that. And as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no idea what He's doing or what He's creating. And we are taking care of our children. Just like in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you have a problem and if you are asked to testify, then say the truth, even if it's against yourself or your parents or your relatives. If you care for them so much and you're worried about them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of them better than you. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Same thing with this one. And remember, when food is present and too much of it, you tend to forget saying Bismillah, even yourself. So when you go to all-you-can-eat buffet, it's all you can say Bismillah. That's the first thing. Remind one another and teach one another and enjoy the food. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
When I said Bismillah
Don't say it for all of us.
always when I say it, and some of the brothers say, "We already said it, brother. Why are you saying it?" So I say, "The one who didn't say it."
It's a way of reminding others. Yes, there's so many styles.
And
Joe.
the other thing is,
مالك جاي كأنك متوقع شيء.
if you do that to somebody's child, they're gonna start fighting you.